Today's episode of Just the Tip Tuesday is brought to you by CK Worldwide, the standard in TIG welding. Right now, CK is running an awesome deal on their MT200 AC/DC TIG welder now through the end of March. The MT200 comes with everything you need right out of the box to start TIG welding except the consumables and gas. The MT200 is a complete welding system capable of 5 amp arc starts and has a compact portable design, weighing in at just 32 pounds. And it's dual voltage, so you can run it off 115 or 220 volt. And it boasts an easy-to-use interface to help you get set up to weld in a flash. The MT200 AC/DC is the answer to both creativity and production-driven TIG welding. This innovative TIG machine provides the ability to quickly and efficiently adapt to dynamic welding situations while maintaining the quality of experience you've come to know and love from CK Worldwide. Get your MT200 today for just $19.95, along with any other genuine CK Worldwide parts and accessories through your local authorized CK distributor. Not sure where your closest distributor is? No problem. Head on over to ckworldwide.com today and click on the Find a Dealer tab. It's that easy. CK Worldwide, the standard in TIG welding. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to this week's episode of Just the Tip Tuesday. Today I have another listener submitted request for you from Daniel. I'm going to screw this one up. Ablithwaite, I believe it is. Sorry if I jacked up your name, man. I really do apologize. He asked if I could do a segment on PPE and mainly the different kinds of filters needed for a specific welding process, such as galvanized or stainless steel or welding with aluminum, and what type of face mask or PAPR system I would recommend. And also branch into the different types of gloves that are available and recommended for different processes. And he says, this being to help any old salts who don't use them and need to know, to drive home the point with greenhorns, and to inform the weekend warriors who are just welding as a hobby and don't have the resources available to educate them on skin, lung, and eye safety. Daniel, honestly, man, I think this is a great topic, and it's also pretty in-depth. So I'm probably going to have to break this up into 2 separate episodes, but we're going to try and work through this. I want to give you as much information as possible so everybody can make informed decisions. And I'm also going to try to put links in the show notes for the various types of gear so that you guys have direct links to, purchase this stuff or upgrade your current gear. I am a huge proponent of personal protective equipment. For the longest time as a young welder, I never really paid much attention to PPE. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was always, had the basics on the, bare minimum, whatever's required. Hood, gloves, jeans, and boots, and that was pretty much it. And half the time I welded without gloves, didn't wear safety glasses, no hearing protection, none of that stuff. But after being in the industry for a while and seeing some of the accidents firsthand and having some near misses myself and attending several classes, I've started to make wearing my PPE a habit, and at times, more of a religion. And I thought about Daniel's question for a while before I sat down to do the episode, and I really planned out what I wanted to say and what I wanted to recommend to everybody when it comes to PPE. And I figured the best way to cover this stuff is just to go from literally head to toe and talk about some of the basic equipment I either use myself or would recommend to a welder, to invest in. Additionally, I'm going to give out some good, better, and best, at least in my opinion, on what gear to invest in. I know not everybody needs top-line gear, nor does everybody, have the budget to go out and buy the best gear that's available, but at a bare minimum, you should at least get some type of PPE before you get started welding, regardless of, where you're at in skill level. Full disclosure, though, some of the products I'm going to list, they are from supporters of my show, the Arc Junkies Podcast, but I was using all these products prior to the company supporting my work, so I'm going to give you my honest opinion on this stuff. This episode is not sponsored by any of the companies, from the gear that I'm going to be listing out. None of these companies are actually sponsoring, this episode. So this isn't a push from companies to get their name out and get, their gear bought or anything like that. I just wanted to give you guys my full honest opinion of the type of gear that I use. If one of these companies happens to sponsor my show or I have a discount code, I'm going to go ahead and give you that so you can save a couple bucks if you decide to purchase from them. If not, no biggie. Most of these links are going to be directly to Amazon, which I'm not affiliated with in any shape or form, other than the fact that I like their Prime delivery service. I'm also, like I said before, I'm going to try and provide as many links as I can to a lot of the stuff. The bulk of it you're going to be able to pick up, like I said, either on Amazon or through your local weld supply store. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Let's talk about covering your grape. Yes, your head. If you're going to be doing any type of welding, I highly recommend a welding cap. And a welding cap's not just going to keep the sparks and the grinding dust out of your hair. It's also going to cover up any exposed skin. So if you're one of those people that aren't so blessed with hair up on top of your head, I definitely recommend getting a welding cap. Welding arc is going to produce a UV ray that's about 10 times brighter than the sun, and you can actually get skin cancer from UV light. So cover up your head. It's pretty simple. You can typically get a welding cap at your local welding supply store. Amazon has them. Most of your hardware stores have them. I've seen them at Tractor Supply, Ace Hardware, Northern Tool and Equipment. I mean, they're pretty much everywhere. Are they the best? Probably not. I know a lot of people out there that do not like to wear welding caps, and it's probably because they've never worn a good welding cap. For the longest time, like I said, I never wore a welding cap. I just rolled a bandana. It was good enough for me. But once I actually went out and purchased a welding cap, I can't weld without one. And it literally feels like I'm naked. Like I don't like not having a welding cap on and welding. So like I said, you can pick these up at hardware stores. I recommend, checking out some of the people. I mean, there's a metric crap ton of people on Instagram that are making welding caps, custom welding caps fitted exactly for your head. One of the companies I recommend online is Bird Caps on Instagram. She just did my Arc Junkies welding cap, which is super comfortable. I love the thing. Prior to that, I know Blue Collar Caps. She did 3 caps for me. They were awesome as well, so you can go check out either one of them on Instagram, at Birds Caps or at Blue Collar Caps on Instagram. I'm not sure if Blue Collar Caps is still doing business. I haven't seen a whole lot of work from her recently on Instagram, but I know Birds Caps is still kicking because, like I said, I got a cap from her a while back, and the thing's awesome. Now, if you want to go out and get a custom cap made, the best thing you can do is measure your dome. So the easiest way to do that is take a fiberglass tape measure or a string or something and wrap it around your head. I like to measure mine as I wrap my ears so that I know that the welding cap's going to fit over top of my ears, because I also use that to keep sparks out of there. But figure out what size circumference your head is, get that total measurement, divide that by 3.14, which is pi, and that's going to tell you the exact size cap you need. So if it's 7 1/4, 7 1/2, or if you have a bigger or smaller head, it'll be exactly fit. I would also recommend measuring from the center of the top of your head and then measuring down how far you want it to go. Like I said, I like mine to cover about half my ear. I wore cheap welding caps in the past, and they're just not comfortable. So get something that fits really well. I don't like the ones that have elastic in them, the one size fits all. I know Como's got some caps out there, but they kind of look like clown underwear. They don't fit really great. They're too thick for my liking. Go out and get a custom cap made. You're going to thank me. And there's probably only like a $6 or $7 price difference, but it's going to last quite a while. So check them out. Next thing I want to talk about is hearing protection. Now, if you're going to be on a grinder all day, earmuffs are probably going to be your best choice. And I recommend the 3M brand for that. They're relatively affordable. They do a great job of blocking out all the sound. Additionally, any earplugs, from any company, they're going to be effective. Otherwise, they can't be sold. Earplugs are going to help dampen the sound, because the last thing you want is tinnitus. Trust me, I've got it. It is not fun. In addition, earplugs serve another purpose that many of us don't think about: keeping sparks out of your ear cavity. Now, if you've ever gotten a hot piece of metal or a spark inside of your ear, you know as well as I do, that's a new kind of hurt, and you do not want that. Earplugs are relatively cheap, and they're available in pretty much every shop, or they should be made available in every shop. If not, you can pick up a box from Home Depot for a couple bucks, and there's like hundreds of earplugs in there. Throw them in your gang box and then use them as often as you can. Now, if you want to get into something fancy, I recommend ISOTUNES. These are a company. They're not really a sponsor of the show, but I'm affiliated with them. I don't recommend these just because of the affiliation that I have with them. I recommend them because they're a great product. I get to use my ISOTUNES all the time when I'm in the shop, and I carry them with me everywhere I go. They're in my gear bag because I weld at several different places, and then I take them home with me, and I'll wear them on the weekends when I'm here in the shop. They're great because they block out all the sound. Plus, I can listen to music with them because they're Bluetooth compatible or Bluetooth capable, and they work great for making phone calls. They got noise canceling and all that stuff in there. I'll leave the link in there if you guys want to pick up a set. But if not, like I said, earmuffs are great unless you got to put a hood on or if you're wearing hard hats. I mean, they make some that are compatible with those. Earmuffs are ideal. Earplugs work really good. I prefer earplugs or, like I said, my ISOTUNES. So just pick up something, get something to protect your hearing. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about eye protection, okay? We only have 2 sets of eyeballs. We need to protect both of them. Now, you don't need to get anything too fancy with this stuff. Just get something that's like Z87.1 or higher compatible, and that's according to ANSI Z49-1, the safety and welding. Nemesis is a great brand. I've used those for years. 3M makes a solid product. They're a couple of bucks. They got the good side shields on them. There's just a ton of different options for safety glasses. I found safety glasses, if I use the cheap ones, they don't last and they get all scratched up and everything. It's because I don't take care of them really well. That's because they're cheap. Like I said, a couple bucks a piece. They get thrown everywhere. About a year and a half ago, I got a hell of a deal on a set of Oakleys. I'm not saying to go out and buy a set of Oakley safety glasses, but I noticed that since I've had these, I've paid a lot better attention to them and take better care of them. I don't just throw them on the table when I'm not using them. If I'm done with them for the day, I put them in a bag, put them in a hard case, and then they go back in the toolbox or my duffel bag that I carry my welding gear in. Like I said, you don't need to get too crazy with this. Just make sure you have safety glasses on. I deal with a lot of students all the time. That's one of the biggest problems they have, especially if they've come from industry before. They have a hard time wearing safety glasses. I've taken too many guys to go see the eye doctor and get shards of metal and stuff removed from their eye. I've had hot slag in mine. So at one point in my life, I decided it's probably a good idea to just start covering my eyeballs, so I don't have to worry about, getting one of them taken out. So if you're getting into welding or you're welding already and you need corrective lenses, I highly recommend going out and buying a pair of corrective lenses that meet the Z87.1. So you can go to your optometrist. I know like Walmart sells them. Any eye doctor is going to be able to get you a good set. Make sure you get the side shields with them because, if they're just flat in the front, they're not going to protect your peripheral. You want to make sure you got something that covers you up on at least 3 good sides. When it comes to safety glasses, since they are so cheap, sometimes you can buy a box of them or a pack of them. I've got them all over my shop at the house. I've got them all over in my office. I've got them pretty much on every piece of gear that I have in my garage. I've got them on my work table, my table saw. I've got them on my bandsaw. I've got more up in my toolbox. You can never have too many safety glasses laying around. So get you a pair of safety glasses, get you a couple pair, take care of them. I even carry some in my car just because if I got to swing by and do a bid or something on the way home from work, I've always got safety glasses, tape measure, and a notebook and a pen and paper in the car there for if I have to stop by and do a bid somewhere. But protect your damn eyes. That's something you don't want to have to get eye surgery. You don't want to have to get your eyes replaced. I got a brother-in-law. He's got one eye from an accident when he was a kid, and we were actually working on his boat one day. He bought this boat and this rusted ass trailer, and we're out there like wire wheeling everything up. And I was like, dude, I seen him. He didn't have any safety glasses on. And I was like, hey man, I don't want to be a dick, but you only got one eye left. You might want to protect that guy. It's pretty important. You want to be able to see for the rest of your life. So make sure you cover your eyeballs up, get some good quality safety glasses, get something decent. That's pretty simple. Next thing I want to talk about is something that people overlook quite a bit, and this is also going to be, protecting your face and your eyes, is a face shield. For some reason, people just don't like wearing face shields. Never understood it. Well, I do to a certain extent. I don't like wearing them either, but I always do. But after having cutoff wheels explode when I'm using them or grinders kick back, especially using a wire wheel without a guard on the grinder, we've all done it, right? It's not a smart idea, but we've all done it. I've seen these things kick back. I've seen metal shavings fly off, whether you're using a grinder or a lathe or a mill or a drill. I have a newfound respect for face shields. So anytime I'm using a grinder, like I said, a saw, a drill, mill, lathe, anything like that, anything that's under rotation, I wear a face shield now, in addition to your safety glasses. So just the face shield isn't good enough and just the safety glasses aren't good enough. Wear the safety glasses, put the face shield on. It's not like you're working for hours on end. They're extremely light. They're not very uncomfortable. I actually have a couple pair at my house. I got a couple face shields at the house Keep your lenses clean. That's probably the biggest thing that pisses everybody off. I hang mine kind of high up in the garage to where the dust doesn't settle on them, and I'm not hitting them with grinder sparks. They're not getting dust or anything like that on them. They're maybe 15 to 20 bucks. You know, I highly encourage you to pick one up, especially if you look up the grinder accidents on Google or maybe watch the video that I did on weld.com. The video that I did, like all the graphic images, those were submitted through people on Facebook and Instagram who are welders, and they got injured at work, most of them to the face, because they were not wearing a face shield and a grinder kicked back or a cutoff wheel exploded, you know, because it got caught up or bound on some material. You know, just do yourself a favor, get a damn face shield. And again, these things should meet the Z87.1 compliance. Bionics, I want to say, is the name of the company, from Uvex. They make a very good face shield. It's very lightweight, very comfortable. Lincoln Electric also makes them. Fiber, you can get them from Fiber Metal. There's a bunch of different options out there. One of my students the other day, he actually brought one in that he purchased off Amazon, and it's from Jackson. And this thing's freaking cool as hell. It has a clear face shield, but then probably about 4 or 5 inches, it's got like a little flip down IR shade 5 lens. So you can use that for oxy-fuel cutting and then flip up the tinted window. And now you've got a clear grinding shield again. It's about 75 bucks, but overall it's a nice piece of gear. Now you can spend as little or as much as you want on a face shield, but I definitely recommend wearing one. If you decide to go the Lincoln route, like I said, I'll throw in a discount code if you want to buy something from any of the supporters of the show. Lincoln Electric, if you go to store.lincolnelectric.com and use Arc Junkies 20, you can get 20% off all their PPE and their gear and accessories and stuff. But like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff you can get on Amazon as well. So actually weigh it out, you know, do some price shopping, see which one's cheaper. Next up, let's talk about your nose and your mouth. Mitigating welding fumes is kind of a big deal. It was never a big deal when I was growing up, coming up through the industry. The old timers before me, it was never an issue, but breathing in anything other than, you know, the air that we're supposed to be breathing in is bad. So any fumes, any burning metal, any burning, electrodes or filler metal, it's not good for you. Plus grinding dust, fumes from plasma cutting, you know, anytime you cut with plasma cutting, it generates something called ozone. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in. When we're welded with shielded metal arc welding, it releases CO2. A lot of times we're dealing with different gases and stuff like that. Whenever we're cutting with oxy-fuel, cutting through steel, it's releasing gases. Anytime we weld on galvanized, you're releasing zinc, which can cause metal fume fever. Or when we're welding or grinding on stainless steel, that releases something called hexavalent chromium, which has been linked to cancer in every major organ of your body. Or if we're welding or grinding on aluminum, allegedly that has the potential to lead to Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. You want to avoid both of those. So you want to make sure you have some way to mitigate fume. And that could be in the form of, you know, just a $5 squirrel cage fan that you picked up at the dollar store or, you know, Big Lots or whatever. And it's just blowing the fumes away from you. Make sure you keep your head out of the fumes. That's number one. At the source fume extraction is going to be another one. However, that's going to be very expensive. They do make, you know, units for small shops and stuff like that. So if you know you can be working on a bench all day, you know, you can pick up a decent one of those. Let's see, there's a bunch of different applications out there. I know they make portable ones for the shop that you can kind of swing around. They make some that are about the size of a 5-gallon bucket. So, you know, whatever you do, try to get rid of as much fume as possible. Now, another option, you know, that's not obviously not for like home hobbyists, and it's not for people that are doing a whole lot of work outside. But if you kind of sit at a bench all day or you're in a shop for most of the time, you can check out a PAPR system. PAPR systems work great and they're well worth the investment. But let me tell you, it's a hell of an investment. We're talking like anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 to get a PAPR system. Some of the best ones out there you can get from 3M. They make a badass version of a PAPR system. Lincoln Electric makes a really good one. I'm pretty sure Optrel makes one. Miller has them. Pretty much any company that makes a welding hood, they're going to have some sort of a PAPR system. But like I said, they're going to come at a price tag. So, you know, weigh out your options. If you're doing a lot of aluminum or stainless steel welding and you're in a shop all day and you don't have access to at-the-source fume extraction, you might want to see if your employer will cover the cost or at least go in halvesies with you on a decent PAPR system. They're great systems. I've got one at work that I use anytime that I have to do a whole lot of cutting or a bunch of grinding, or I'm in an enclosed area or anything like that. Not a confined space. That's something we're dealing with different equipment in a confined space. But if I'm dealing with an area where I can't get rid of the fumes readily, I'll throw on a PAPR system. I mean, they make a bunch of different filters for PAPR systems, so make sure you get the appropriate filter for the task at hand, meaning that, it's going to filter out fume and particulate matter. Now, with most PAPR systems, you're still going to be able to smell stuff, but most of the companies, they're going to have like a charcoal-lined filter that you can put in there with it. That's going to cut down on, what you can smell. So if you can't smell anything coming in, you obviously know it's working. We had a guy at work all the time, and everybody used to walk by and intentionally fart, right back by his PAPR system, so he'd have to breathe that in, and damn, he hated us. Iron workers are nasty people, but we had a lot of fun doing it. So outside of that, your next choice would be, other than a PAPR system, get a good quality half-face respirator. My personal choice would be the 3M 6200 half-face respirator, and that's only because that's the brand that I use for many years, and that's the exact type and model number of the one that I use for many years. Anytime I was welding and grinding on stainless, aluminum, or galvanized, that's what I would use. It fits under a hood. It's it's relatively comfortable for being a half-face respirator. It's just a solid product all the way around. I don't think 3M makes anything that's junk. I mean, they make top-of-the-line equipment, and you're only looking, I think I priced these out the other day, $12 to $15. So they're not too bad. Now, here's the downside. If you have a beard or a goatee, or you're not clean shaven enough, the respirator is going to be ineffective. You need to be clean shaven. Aside from maybe you can get away with a small mustache, I had like a really tiny goatee. You just want to make sure you get a proper seal, because if you don't get a proper seal, it's not working. Yes, you're going to be able to filter out some of the stuff, but not 100% of it. It's kind of like wearing your underwear on the outside of your pants. It just doesn't make sense. Additionally, you're going to want to get a pulmonary function test. This is something that I may be going overboard with this, but anytime we had to do annual training or annual inspections for our respirators, we had to go get a pulmonary function test. What this is going to do is it's going to tell you whether your body is capable enough of wearing a respirator for long periods of time. Breathing in and out of a respirator for long periods, it can cause a heavy load on your heart and a lot of strain on there, and you could pass out. And it's just going to take a lot of effort to breathe. There you go. You're laying on the floor now. You can't breathe really well. Not a good situation to be in. So make sure that you're healthy enough to be wearing a respirator. A lot of people want to complain about wearing masks and stuff due to COVID because, it's hard to breathe. Well, put a freaking respirator on. Then tell me it's, hard to breathe. So make sure, I would at least recommend going to get a pulmonary function test. They're like $30-$40 over at the Minute Clinic. It's not bad, especially if you have to wear one of these for work. In addition to that, you're going to want to get a fit test. Now, fit test is just going to make sure that you got a proper seal. So essentially what they do is you put the respirator on, you got the filters and everything on, and they put a bag over your head. And they spray this chemical inside of a bag, and then they smack the bag around a little bit, or at least that's what they did when I had to do it. And if you can smell or taste anything, that tells them you have a leak on your respirator. So you might need to go up or down a size to make sure it fits your face. Respirators they're not a one size fits all solution. Again, you want to make sure anytime we're dealing with this that we're using the right filters. So what I used when I did all of my work was it's called a P100 filter, and make sure you get the right filters for the respirator that you have, because not all filters are compatible with everybody's respirator. So if you use that 3M, I think it was the 6200 I was telling you about, make sure you get the filters that'll fit that model. Like I said, I use the P100 filters. They're pink filters. They've got a layer of charcoal in there. It's going to filter out all the welding fumes. It's going to filter out dust particulate. It's going to filter out any smells, so you won't be able to smell anything. And if you're using a respirator, you're probably going to want to swap out your filters every once in a while, especially if they get dirty, if they get wet or soiled, or if they get oil or anything on them. Just go ahead and swap them out. Additionally, if you start to smell anything, that's another good indication that you want to swap your filter out. If it gets hard to breathe in a respirator, like you put it on and you've been breathing fine all day, and all of a sudden it's starting to get a little hard to breathe, that's because the filter's getting clogged up with particulates and fumes. Go ahead and swap them out. Don't be a cheap ass. They're right around $9 for a set of filters. For $9, it's not too bad. And then the 3M, the 6200 is going to run you about $16. Definitely worth the price. Stock up on the filters so that you don't run out at any time. If you get down to like one set, you might want to Amazon Prime another. And if you're working in any environment, that requires these, your employer should, I think they're like legally obligated to provide you with this stuff and the training. Make sure you get your pulmonary function test, get a fit test, definitely get some training with this stuff. I can't stress that enough. If you don't know what you're doing, just throwing a respirator on your face, that's not going to be very effective. You need to make sure you know how to don this stuff and then do a positive and negative seal check before you put this stuff on, before you use it. Again, make sure you're clean shaven. And then also make sure that you look up the correct filter. Even though I recommended the P100 filters for what I was doing, make sure that, for the work that you're doing, the filter that you're selecting is going to be adequate for that job. And most of the time, once you open that filter packet up, it's going to tell you everything. Here's what it's for. And I actually had that happen to me one time. I was working for a company. They provided the filters and the respirator. And when I read what the filter was actually rated for, it was only rated for dust and debris, no fumes. So they gave me these filters and stuff to go, weld a bunch of stainless and stuff with it. That's not what it was for. It's for dust. So make sure you get the right filter for the application at hand. In addition to those, there's this guy, Cliff, on Instagram, runs a company called O2 Armor, and it's actually a pretty cool product. It's you guys have probably seen it, but it's like these little flat discs with a little plastic strip in between the two, and they fit just inside your nostrils, and they come small, medium, large, and extra large. And I've actually used these several times because like the majority of the breathing that you're going to do while you're in the shop is through your nose anyway. I mean, unless you're carrying on a conversation, most of the time you're going to breathe in and out through your nose. Now, these things are not going to protect you from welding fume or anything like that, but if you're doing a lot of grinding and you don't have a respirator, you don't have a PAPR system, you don't have a dust cloth or anything like that over your face, you could throw these little things in, and what it does is just going to filter out and trap any particulate matter from getting up in your nose. I like to use them when I do a lot of woodworking because I've just got ridiculous freaking allergies since I was a kid. It's a curse. I don't know. But anytime I'm doing a lot of grinding or woodworking, I try out I try to use these O2 Armor. They're kind of like earplugs, so it's like use once, throw away, so you can throw them in there. You can work for, several hours on end. And when you're done, just pop them out, throw them in the trash. And then, next time you get back out there in the shop, throw them back up there or put another set in. I'll go ahead and link to that as well. Let's go ahead and talk about welding jackets and sleeves. Obviously, this is going to really depend on the type of work that you're doing. Some TIG welding, you can get away with a good FR shirt. I like the one Weldporn just came out with an FR line of long sleeve shirts. I got one. They're super comfortable and they're great. They're very affordable. It's not like anything you're going to break the bank on. But, a light denim shirt also works. A thick t-shirt and a good pair of quality sleeves. They work really good. This process doesn't produce any sparks. Well, I say that, but I've seen people prove me wrong. TIG welding shouldn't produce any sparks, so you don't need anything that's, super crazy with FR. You just need something that's not going to melt to your skin. If you're doing anything like MIG or flux core work or stick weld, sleeves typically, you just need a jacket on at that point. As far as sleeves go with TIG welding, I like the Arc Defense sleeves from Rush Kane. They're really high quality. The fit is freaking fabulous with them. They don't slip off. They don't have like the elastic bands at the top and the bottom like a lot of other ones do that just kind of dig into your skin all day. I don't know. I kind of got bigger arms with the bicep, tricep area. So any of those elastic ones, they just dig into my skin all day and they're a pain in the ass. So the Arc Defense sleeves, they don't have elastic bands. They just they're like form fit, almost like Under Armour. And they actually make you feel like cooler. Not like cool as in like a badass, but like cool as in like you can feel like a 5 to 10 degree difference when you slide these things on. It's actually cooler than the rest of your body. Very similar to like Under Armour technology for people that are doing sports and stuff. But they're great because they're going to block out all the UV light. They're super comfortable. I know Weldporn, they sell a version. I think they have some FR sleeves. You can wear those as well. Whatever you do, cover up your arms. I think I've told this story several times on the podcast where I was working with a guy and his arm looked like he got it caught up in a piece of equipment. And it ended up being, I asked him, I was like, hey man, can I ask what happened to your arm? And he goes, yeah, when I was getting into this industry and stuff for the longest time, I didn't weld with any sleeves. and I didn't weld with a jacket. I just welded a t-shirt. And these are all the sections that they cut out melanoma skin cancer from my arm due to welding and not wearing sleeves or a jacket. Definitely recommend covering it up. Now, if you're going to be doing like a lot of short circuit MIG welding, I recommend getting a decent welding jacket. You can pick these up from most welding supply stores. If you're a home hobbyist, Tillman, they make some pretty decent stuff. They're relatively cheap. The FR is like a chemical that, that's soaked into the clothes. So after a couple washes, you kind of wash out the FR, and then you're going to start noticing you're burning holes in it. But at least it's not flammable. You can also get those on Amazon as well. Black Stallion's going to sell some as well. You can get those most of the time at your local welding supply store and Amazon. If you're going to be doing a lot of work, a lot of welding that produces a lot of sparks, I highly recommend investing in high-quality, comfortable jackets. Personally, I like the stuff from Up and Smoke Apparel. Yes, they're extremely expensive garments. No, I do not have a discount code. I paid full price for all the Up and Smoke jackets that I have. However, they're built like a freaking tank. These things are built to last, and they're going to protect you, especially if you're doing like a lot of overhead flux core or a lot of overhead stick welding, or you're doing quite a bit of carbon arc gouging or anything in a tight space where you're producing a lot of sparks. Up and Smoke jackets, they're probably the best I've ever seen, best I've ever worn, aside from throwing half a dead cow on you. Like you can't beat leather. Like you're not going to burn through leather, right? But leather jackets are extremely hot. They're very heavy. They're uncomfortable. They rub against your skin. They don't fit well. You can't really stretch out in them. Like I said, I recommend the Up and Smoke stuff. It's pricey, but it's worth the price. Whereas, if you're doing a lot of welding throughout the year, you're probably going to go through 2 to 3 welding jackets. I've got students, that they've been in the booth welding for the past 40 weeks. And I mean, their jackets still look relatively new. They got a couple of burn spots in there, but overall the jackets held up. I've got students that we bought them jackets a couple years ago, and they're still wearing them work. So they hold up for quite a long time. Regardless of whatever jacket you choose, whether it's high dollar one or a cheap one, just make sure that whatever you decide to use as a welding jacket is made from natural fibers. Don't use anything from synthetic fibers. So any like polyesters, polypropylene, anything like that stuff's going to melt. And if that stuff's on your skin, it's going to melt right to your skin. So weld spatter, anything like that, it's going to go right through you. It's going to burn you. Get something that's cotton or wool or what they call duck, which is like that tan denim stuff. Just make sure you're covering up any exposed skin. You don't want to risk it. You're not getting a welder's tan. That's a crock of shit. You're going to end up and burn yourself. Long-term exposure, you're going to end up getting skin cancer. So cover yourself up. Back in the days when I was doing ironwork, a lot of times I would just wear like a light denim jacket. You can pick them up at Tractor Supply or Walmart, little Wrangler jackets. You button them up, and for the majority of the stuff, you're good to go. It's not going to provide a whole lot of protection from sparks and overhead spatter or anything like that, but it is going to keep the UV rays off of your skin. So that's probably a good spot to go ahead and wrap up for this episode. I know it's a lot of information to process and digest. And like I said, do some research, find out what's best for you. When it comes to comfort and price, I mean, there's a lot of factors into it. So do some research, figure out, look at the ratings. That's why I like going to Amazon, because I can look at the ratings. I can kind of see a crap ton of, different types of ratings, find out the most common problem and say, hey, you know what? That's probably not for me. Let me go look at this other one. And most of the stuff I listed, like I said, you can pick it up at your welding supply store. You can pick it up on Amazon. You could pick it up from a lot of the hardware stores. Just whatever you do, get something that's going to be comfortable, because you have to work in this stuff, and get something that's going to fit your budget. Don't think you have to go out and buy some, crazy high dollar welding jacket or crazy, set of welding gloves or anything like that, just because it's got a really good price tag on it. And that's what everybody else is wearing. Find out what works for you. Like I said, this is just some of the stuff that I personally use myself. This is my recommendation. If you know other welders that are in the industry, or you've been doing this stuff for a while, go with what you know. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, a lot of companies are making very similar stuff. They've just tweaked it a little bit. So figure out what works for you, your budget, and your price point. In next week's episode of Just a Tip, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cover the rest of the various types of PPE. I'm going to get into welding helmets, that I would recommend. Once again, good, better, and best. Task-specific gloves for cutting and fabrication and welding. And also talk through the different types of footwear that are available. As I said earlier, with all this stuff, I'm going to go ahead and put links in the show notes for all the gear that I mentioned in the show. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to give you my opinions on anything else that you want to pick up or reviews on some stuff. Because honestly, there's some stuff out there that it's junk. I won't wear it. I won't use it. So you can feel free to hit me up anytime. You guys know how to get a hold of me, show@arcjunkies.com via email, or you can hit me up on Instagram @ArcJunkiesPodcast. Hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of Just the Tip Tuesday. Feel free to submit your own questions via the email or Instagram. You can hit me up on either one. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for a new episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.